that's the whole point about this pushback about the testing and stuff. Like, yo, I don't have time for all of that. Right. You just don't, because you're dealing with other things. That's why the nurse is so important to have there. That's why the social worker is so important to have there. That's why the counselor not toting around number 2 pencils and testing booklets, but can actually be in a situation where they can have one-on-one interaction with kids. Like the suicidal ideation, like high. And I ain't talking about high school, I'm talking about elementary school, right? Homicidal ideation, high. Still not talking about high school, talking about elementary school. Our children are in pain. And so as grown-ups who signed up to deal with children in these spaces, we need a lot of support, but we also need a lot of patience and understanding at the same time too. It's part of the work.
Right. All right. You guys aren't clapping for me like that tonight. Trash. And speaking of the strike, it revealed that a lot of people are trash.
Yes.
And have a lot of trash perspectives. You know, I mean, like, and, you know, so I'm even thinking about that moment when you said, like, that's petty, let's keep it moving. I want to close out on a game where you name the 5 pettiest things. What are the 5 pettiest things you heard someone say during the strike?
Well, the first one was that we were going to go on strike. It didn't matter. Like the mayor kept saying that. It didn't matter what they gave us, how they came to the table, we were going to go on strike. And I'm like, yo, do you know how difficult it is to get a teacher to like push back?
Right.
That is not their first response.
Right.
It is never, it ain't even a 5th response. Right? So no, that was petty. I think another petty thing that I experienced is that the white Jews was feeding me talking points. And I'm like, the only people who get to tell me what to do are 10, 8, and 6. Like no one else. And I'll call my dad and he'll tell you for sure. So that was extraordinarily petty and sexist, you know, racist. So those 2 things. I think the third thing that, you know, I experienced is that this black woman as savior to all of the white supremacy and the impact of their garbage over time, that they, Janice and Lori, were somehow going to sprinkle black girl magic around, and that damn, it was gonna work. So I think that's the third thing. 2 more things that were petty. This shit about our strike getting in the way of the athletes, you know, getting, not competing, because I did feel a way about that. Not competing, but scholarships. I was like, first off, yo, I know this hasn't changed. If you need the last game for a scholarship, you ain't getting one. It ain't happening. So, like, I know that. So that part of it was, it's like, look, I get that it's terrible for them to experience this in this way. I was an athlete throughout school, so I get that. But I do know that last part, like if he needs or she needs to get a scholarship for that last game, it ain't gonna happen. So that's 4. And 5 was this bullshit about like our veteran pay. And perhaps that is the top. It's like, sometimes just published the story, I think it was last Friday. So we got $25 million for veteran pay. This is like too much information, but like, so we got $25 million for veteran pay. Why is that important? Because as a newer educator, you do not know what you're doing, at least into the 5th year of your experience. That's if you're special. That is if you're special, because it is really a difficult job. And it is a constant. Like there's no breaks in an elementary school. Nothing. So it takes a while to get there. And so veteran teachers have the capacity to stabilize a school community and offer mentorship and good direction, not just for the educators, but for parents, because if they're there, then they've had multiple children in a family. So they're anchored and connected. For the principal, who's usually 12 and doesn't know much, and they can, no, seriously, they can be helpful in those situations. And so what CPS has done is push out veteran teachers because they don't reward that in compensation in ways that other districts tend to do. Juxtaposed to that, our veteran teachers have been Black teachers by and large because our system used to be anchored by Black female teachers, educators, right? Not anymore, because you closed down 50 schools. You closed down 10 this year, you closed down 2 this year, and then you start privatization, and private charter operators ain't hiring, Miss Gladys. They're just not, because Miss Gladys, no. She knows. And so they're not going to hire her. That being said, anchoring like this whole concept of like compensating fairly, securing their services, honoring the work of women who have done it for a while, and in this case, in Chicago, Black women, it was important for us, right? Because if you look at the Chicago Teachers Union over time, who do you know? Jackie Vaughn and Karen Lewis, right? And so if it can't just be them, it has to be the actual women in the building. But I said all of that to say, so that was a sticking point. Like, we was on strike for 11 days. And on day 10, we were summoned to the 5th floor. And she said, okay. Now they're talking about a bonus. No one has said anything about a bonus. Like, when I say irritated, petty, that right there, because first off, bonus talk is Rahm Emanuel talk. Like, if we want to center this correctly. Part 2, there's nothing in the history of our compensation that's ever said it. And then finally, which I think is the most persuasive, ain't a damn contract demand that you can find that don't say steps and lanes, because that is how we are compensated within our profession. And so it is petty to get to the end where you just got to figure out the details and to say, yeah, we don't know what you're talking about.
You just want to take a fedora and burn it. One of the things, I mean, so I think
you are actually like provoking like actions in my head about like the whole theme of a fedora and how you use a fedora in that action. Yeah. Organized.
Thank you. I'm gonna steal it and use it because that hasn't happened to Black women before. I won't do that. So.